Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh, and I've got my semi-favorite co-host, Denham, in the command cockpit today. What's going on, Denham?
Howdy, howdy. Now we're in the command cockpit. I cannot believe you just opened up a case of beef jerky. Dude, that is just wrong. Just wrong.
I mean, there are worse things to open up. Like, I watched so many videos of the, Surstrumming. I watched so many Surstrumming can open videos this week that it's not even funny. Like, it's funny how many I watch, but somebody's got to call a therapist after watching that.
I got mine on speed dial.
But we are the Mechbay podcast, your number one source for everything classic to Alpha Strike tabletop tactics. And unfortunately, our other co-host, Dustin, is stuck in the she shed. And we've got Search and Rescue working around the clock to pry him out. But until then, we're going to roll out talking about why all you Mechwarriors are special out there with your fancy special pilot abilities. That's right. We're talking SPAs for days. We're breaking into campaign operations a little bit, but nobody burn us at the stake, please.
Dude, I love this book. In general, I love the campaign operations book. It is probably one of my favorites of all time.
It's good to know. But anyway, let's kick things off with some hobby news, hobby progress, and some games played. Yeah, do we start with the bad news and work our way up? All right, for news, we've got a couple issues coming out with the Hammerhead second wave that was put up on the Catalyst store before Thanksgiving. Essentially, we were advertised that the second wave would get new pairs of arms and legs to have more limbs for more posability and options, and also the improved chest torso piece. And unfortunately, it looks like we are not seeing that. It looks like Catalyst or the warehouse that supplying all of them did not remove all of the Wave 1 hammerheads from production. So if you got a hammerhead that only has one pair of arms and one pair of legs and might have some 3D print lines on the torso, stop, because that's not what you bought. Personally, I would send an email to Catalyst to let them know how widespread this issue is, because I think right now they're just trying to do some damage control and see how bad the issue is and if any Wave 2 ones went out or if it's only Wave 1. Personally, that's a little disappointing considering how long we waited for more Hammerhead premium models to come out. Ironically, while all this is happening, the Eris is finally for sale, so we've waited since August, essentially, for that. Hopefully that one comes all in the boxes 100% as advertised, but I'll be waiting until I see some physical copies before I start placing an order for that. But currently it's still in stock, so it doesn't look like they got their production quantity issues resolved, at least. We have the Battletech Alpha Strike box set finally coming to stores. Fortress Miniatures and Games has a pre-order currently where you can essentially buy it, and as soon as Rob receives stock, he will start shipping it out first come, first served. So if you are worried that your store won't get it or Catalyst might not have enough on their web store, you can secure your copy at Fortress. So that's excellent for that. And you currently have another 18 days to get the new Battletech book bundle. So that has a bunch of stuff. That actually has the Battletech Beginners box from Catalyst in there. So if you purchase the Humble Bundle Battletech book bundle, ooh, that was a lot. You get the Battletech Beginner box. You get Pseudotech Arcade Operations, Combat Manual Karita, Spotlight Crescent Hawks, Empire Alone, Tamar Rising, Ill Clan, Shattered Fortress, Air Report 3145, Field Manual 3145, Turning Points, Misery, Tyrfing, Battle of Tukid, Supplemental. Like, there's more here than I'm willing to list off, but you actually do get Total Warfare and the Alpha Strike Commanders editions, which, considering those are our two main rule books, I think it's worth it. Yeah, $30. I'm going to say that's the steal of the century right now. Let's not dwell on the news too hard, and let's move to some hobby progress. So, Denham, what hobby progress have you gotten done lately?
I have a bunch of dark blue minis now.
Ooh.
I'm working on a new... My mercenary group is blue and yellow. I thought that the yellow was a little bit too bright, and the blue was just the wrong shade. So I've been working with new paints, darker colors, better looking. I think it looks more like a giant mecha than something in a coloring book. So hopefully they'll turn out well. I'm not painting over any of my old ones. I just bought more mechs and I'm painting more.
That's fine. I mean, buying is better. we don't judge here.
That way I can compare and see if I made the right choice.
Any other hobby progress, or that's pretty much it?
I'm still slowly working on that city board that I was talking about a few sessions ago, printing out a lot of terrain.
Okay. Oh man, I've gotten a lot. I've been.
You got a lot for BattleTech?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. I'm trying to think. Did I get anything for non-BattleTech? The answer is no.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, tell.
all of you listeners who are like, oh, when's Josh going to do Warhammer stuff? This is not that episode. I got a whole bunch of stuff from Fortress. I got a lot more battle armor because every Southern Assault, I just look at my battle armor collection and like, oh, I need more. And I buy a bunch, and then I realize I only use the same ones every time. So it's kind of okay, right? Yeah, I don't have a VTOL battle armor addiction at all. Yeah. And then I got some stuff to finish up my Comstar, so I'll never have to paint Comstar again. I got a Templar, a Dragoon, and some Bola stealth tanks. Because you know what? They're all unique. They're all experimental. And I realized I can never take them to any tournament, but I still want them.
Your Comstar experimental army.
Yeah. Is that why I play them?
Yep.
But with that purchase, I never have to get Comstar again. So, woo!
You never have to.
I'm going free.
But you never have to.
That's true. Oh, and I got an Arcus. Man, I felt catfished when I opened and assembled that. Like, the art for the Arcus looks so good. Like, super cool guys on a hill, kind of like pointing for directions, and it kind of leaning back. And you get this, and it's like...
We have an Arcus at home.
Yeah, I wish we had an Arcus at home. It's definitely what did I use? I used the cooler Daniel meme. Yeah. It just, I don't know. They definitely missed it on the sculpting, or they made the art good first. I don't know what came first, but yeah,
that's a bummer.
It is a bummer, but I'm gonna because I'm not attached to it. I'm willing to like cut things and file it down to make it look like I want it to.
Good.
Yeah.
I look forward to pictures.
Same. So that was my Fortress purchase. Then I got some stuff from Cross Electric Designs. Oh man, I got a bunch of stuff. I got an aerospace hangar, some Mechbays, because the Mechbay podcast needs more Mechbays, of course.
Or any Mechbays. I think we talk about it all the time.
A military hover barge. I was like, hover barge. A Olympia command vehicle, and a whole lot of turrets. Like a whole lot of turrets.
I've been printing out turrets for my city thing, but it's my turrets are the ones from Steel Warrior.
Yeah, are those the free ones or the?
No, they're not the free ones. They're the I bought a whole pack. It's got like 16 or 20 different turrets that go on the walls.
Yeah, these are like just ground turrets, which I kind of prefer because like I can throw these down and they're substantial enough that when I'm bringing them onto like a campaign and people are playing, it's like, okay, this is obviously a turret and it's going to take up the majority of its hex kind of thing. I really like these.
That looked like a very cool turret you just showed to me and nobody else in the whole world.
Darn you, audio only media. But no, these look good. These are bulky turrets. Got 2 missile ones, 2 anti-air, and 2 laser ones. And I will say the cool things about the Cross Electric stuff is it's hybrid. It's part filament, part resin. Like the highly detailed stuff is resin, and the bulk stuff is actually filament. So you got the lightweight of the filament with the detail of the resin.
Yeah.
Probably one of the better control towers I've seen. I'll say that.
Yeah, I need a control tower for my airport map. So I'll look into that.
That's most of my buying. I've primed all of those guys.
Oh, the weather has been so horrible for priming. I actually have to look at the weather before I go outside to mass prime my stuff.
What? It's 70. Like
at times it's 70, sometimes it's 42. Sometimes the humidity is 98%, sometimes it's 30%. This is North Carolina. This is Yeah, not good.
That's true. Thinking my brain's dead. I should have wrote down all my hobby progress.
Yeah, you should have. Mine was easy.
Problem is, I pretty much was running out of primer today. I had like multiple cans with like 10 seconds of spray in them left. So they're all empty now. I got the necessities primed, but I have 3 stars left to prime.
I do buy my primer in 6-packs.
Really?
So, oh yeah.
What are you priming with 6-packs worth of primer?
Oh, I just use the black Krylon. It is fantastic.
It is great for the 3D printed stuff because it kind of fills in the gaps just a hair.
No, there's a filler one that I get specifically for that. There's one that fillers, but the regular Krylon, the non-filler Krylon, works great for all. It worked great for my elementals, and those turned out really nice. Like it holds the detail just fine.
I'm gonna trust you, but I don't normally trust the Krylon for the detailed stuff. All right, so that's a lot of my hobby progress. But other than that, yeah. Let's move on to games played. Denham, did you get any games played this week?
I did. I mean, it's amazing because work literally caught on fire this past week. It was bad. But I was able to make it to the game store, and I had a 7700 BV game versus our listener, Neil.
7700? That's a weird BV.
It is weird. It's because he was at the store, and I came in, and I'm just like, what have you got? And he pulled out a bunch of mechs, and I said, all right, pick 5.
Okay,
a scout star of 5 clan mechs, and I will match you with Comstar. And it turned out I was able to do it with 6 Comstar mechs. So we had a star versus a level 2, and I had
good.
So we did a recon mission. I had some hidden units on the map. He happened to take 2 mechs with clan active probes, so that didn't work out super well. Super close battle. He was able to pull a win out in the last half of the last turn, which is amazing because the game went 8 turns. He won the first round of initiative and lost the next 7 in a row. And he still just barely pulled a win off at the very last minute. So,
what are you doing?
Fantastic game. It was a fun game, but clan is OP.
All right, that's pretty much it for news, hobby progress, games played, except there is some fan mail this week. Eugene Gonzalez, and he says, hey, Mechbay, long-time listener here. I knew you guys looked down on my favorite faction, the Capellans. Whatever, not everyone can be perfect. Anyways, I feel like y'all missed an opportunity to talk about the Axeman done right in your melee episode, the T-Tsang. Its armor similar, but it moves 696, 711, 6, and when you get the TSM going, when it's hot, it's 24 points a swing or a kick. It's the perfect loadout to keep that magical 9 on the heat scale. So they're pretty much saying that the Capellan later edition of the Axeman and Hatchetman are the better version. What are your thoughts on that? On comparing the T-Tsang to the Axeman and Hatchetman?
As I recall, you had at least one, if not 2 Capellan mechs on your list. So I don't know where he's getting.
I don't know where you're getting this Capellan hate. I've got like more Anubises and.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite mechs are catapults and ravens.
I swear I own more than just Anubises. I'm trying to think. Other Capellan mechs. Just, oh, God. I got a Dola. I had a Dola in the melee episode. That is a literal melee jumping mech with a vibroblade.
From Capellan.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a vicious and violent Axeman variant of sorts, I guess. It's not pretty, but I guess if you're hitting people with giant axes for that much damage, you can look like whatever you want. You know, nobody's going to be around long enough to laugh at you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to say the T-Tsang got hit with the ugly branch, and it really suffers from that like post 30-50 art.
But it has a job and it does it. So, you know, that's what this is all about. If you have a favorite melee mech, please let us know in the Discord and you know, let everybody know.
So I'll finish that off with regular T-Tsang. Okay. T-Tsang experimental with a lance. Yes, ooh, now we're talking.
Let's get a lance in there.
It's got a lance.
So are we talking about a couple corrections for the melee episode? Because I said that the ShadowHawk kicks for 12, it kicks for 11. I mean, I messed up too. kicks is your weight divided by 5.
Yeah.
Punches are your weight divided by 10, which gets rounded up.
Punches round up. Kicks are
all
even
mechs,
number.
All mechs can be divided by 5 evenly.
There's no rounding for kicks.
Right.
Good to know. No, that's fine.
So,
all right. So I think that's it. We can take a quick break and then we'll get talking about why your pilot isn't as special as they think they are.
But they want to be.
Custom Crazy Eddie's Salvage and Swap Yard. Do you need equipment for a field refit? I've got a whole pile of rear-facing medium lasers. Heck, I know a guy who built a mech backwards so all the rear weapons would be in the front. Have an idea that you need brought to life? Now, I've got a hunchback with jump jets in instead of the autocannon, like a giant jet engine sticking out the front. Does a backflip every time you pull the trigger. Just trying to get rid of that stack of machine gun ammo that gets dumped as soon as you enter the battlefield? See, we've got these LRM launchers that shoot out SRMs, and the SRM launchers shoot out the LRMs. Now, nobody here can explain how it works. Just whatever you do, do not use Inferno rounds. Whatever you need, come on down to Custom Crazy Eddie's Salvage and Swap Yard. That mech over there, it doesn't have hands, just 2 extra legs. It's not a quad mech, but he ain't ever failed a PSR yet. All right, and we are back. So, you killed a couple unarmed transports, and your company commander walked over and puts a gold star on your neuro helmet. Now, does this make you special? No. The abilities that gold star gives you make you special. So, the S in special means strength, and you can use the strength stat to improve your melee abilities. Like,
all right, Josh.
Super Sledge.
Stopping you here. Are we making this a Fallout podcast instead of a mech?
It could be
I'm down. I'm throwing out the logo. We're doing Fallout all the way, all day long.
Fine. We're talking about special pilot abilities, not special stat perks.
But I would. The key is for perception. That is how well you can shoot your weapons, like oblique attacker.
I mean, okay, so we'll stop real quick. We're talking about special pilot abilities, but man, you could really easily. It's probably copyrighted, let's get real, but you could slot all these into, like, we even have the L for special. Like, it's that easy.
L is for luck, which is the lucky special pilot ability.
Oh,
I'm down with it.
Why do we have the perfect idea for the episode after the episode's already done?
A for agility.
Oh, thanks. I hate it. All right. But yes, so we're talking about special pilot abilities, also known colloquially as SPAs. And these SPAs are essentially how to make your pilots feel special for campaigns, for Alpha Strike, for Classic, for pretty much any way to play.
Right, but what do they work well with? That's the question.
Yeah, like everything in BattleTech, some things work better in different formats than others. So special pilot abilities are, quote from the book, are assumed to apply to a single warrior, vehicle crew, or infantry unit as appropriate, rather than to an entire force. So these are attached to the pilot, unlike quirks, which were attached to the mech itself.
Right.
Yeah, this is pretty much the other half of the modifying your game outside of the regular rule book.
Right. If you start adding some SPAs to quirks, you can do just ungodly, ungodly abilities.
These abilities will augment the warrior or a crew's unit and can move with them between machines. A particularly useful feature if the players are involved in a campaign. I mean, that makes sense. We're reading it out of campaign ops, right? So,
right.
But essentially, they are, like they say, special pilot abilities are abilities your pilots and crew have that affect how they work and play on the tabletop. Oh, man.
So how much have you used SPAs in your day-to-day BattleTech playing, Josh?
I've used it in my Chaos campaigns that I did with Dustin and Kurt during the pandemic, and then I used them all the time during campaigns because, well, if you're doing campaign, you might as well use campaign ops, and it's a nice big chunk of campaign ops.
It is. That is a decision that I made that sometimes I lay awake at night regretting, but for the most part, I do think it adds a nice little bit of spice to the games.
Yeah. Like capsaicin, like There's
Right,
a
well,
there's a correct level of spice, and sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
true. Yeah, this is definitely above your pepper level of spices. Gets into the fancier spices.
Yeah. What about you? What is your experience using SPAs?
I mean, I've been using them pretty heavily with campaigns because my opinion was that these pilots should be the heroes of their story, and there's no way to make a better way to make a hero than giving them some of these special abilities, because it really does set you above and beyond. But then when everybody is special, it kind of makes nobody special.
That's true.
But I couldn't think of a way to follow the guidelines in the book and only say, okay, you guys who just randomly came to this table, pick a commander, and he's or she's going to be the lucky pilot to get the special pilot abilities. I can't do that, so everybody gets them.
Yeah. So I want to say that there's a prevalence for using SPAs in campaign games is because they're the second easiest thing to like use experience that you get playing with.
Exactly. It gives you something to save up for, something to spend your hard-earned experience on. It really helps flesh out your character in your mind.
Yeah, because you can spend C-bills all day, but you can make your mech as fancy and as expensive XXXL engines, experimental gyros, clan pulse lasers, and PPCs, targeting computers for days, but the meat in the cockpit is still just the same dude from last year with no improvement.
Right. It's you're still restricted by the rules, so there's a hard limit on what your pilot can do, and these lift you above those. It gives you special abilities that are above and beyond, the rule book.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about our opinions on them? And because both of us have actually used SPAs to a good extent, and we've seen other players at our own tables, whether it be on our side or us as a DM playing against them, how they interact and how they're used and how players generally play with them, I should say.
Sure, I can give my opinion on that. In general, I love the idea of them. I think that the way that they originally have it implemented is fantastic, which, we'll get to the rules and everything, but in a nutshell, not everybody is supposed to have them. You're supposed to have one pilot for every 4 on the table that has one, so it's supposed to be the commanding officers, the elites. Even in the box set, the beginner box set, it talks about the pilot cards that comes with it, and you're only supposed to have like 1 per team has those. And I think that adds a little bit of excitement and flair. As far as campaigns go, I still think it's a fun idea, but because of the balance issues of them that we will get to, it turns out that most of the people take the same few overpowered combinations. So, you don't have a lot of diversity. It's very easy to see which ones are the best, in air quotes, and everybody wants those. So that's what everybody takes.
Yeah, I think the problem is some are more fun than others. Like, there's definitely a spectrum that these are on, and some of these are like pure flavor, and other ones are, this will help me be a better pilot on the table. And when you might do only a campaign 1 day a month, it's really easy to fall into the trap of, well, I'm going to take the thing that affects me and makes it so I play better, rather than the one that my RPG character might take if I'm doing more role playing.
Right, especially if you're not guaranteed to play with the same group of people. Therefore, you can't build your special specs around your teammates and have it, a nice crew that works together.
Yeah.
So when you're an individual, you want to do the best you can, and everybody else is also an individual, so they're trying to do the best they can.
Now, because we've done the 2 things, I've done the build a company and assign essentially 1 special pilot ability per lance in that company. Mm-hmm. That worked a little different because I could do, okay, this one's a little bit more role play, this one's a little bit more combat effective, and this one's just my personal favorite flavor.
Right, and if you're doing it by lance, 1 lance could be your strike lance, 1 could be your fire support lance, and you have SPAs that enhance those.
Yeah, because in that Lance, I was like naming each pilot and having kill marks next to each of their names. Like I was like, okay, we're tracking these guys until they live or die. P.S. They all died. It was pretty awful. It was pretty early on in my BattleTech campaign career, but it was fun watching. Like, okay, this person got enough experience to get an SPA, and then I could retire the person that had one and is wounded and get someone fresh. So I was constantly like recycling stuff. It made the company feel more alive that way.
Right. It does. Like I said, it adds flavor and spice to your company when done the way that it was intended to.
The other way we've seen it done, like you said, was at a table where it's like 4 players against the DM, and each of those players is getting special pilot abilities.
Yeah, it's like when you pour way too much salt on your eggs, it becomes not as tasty.
For who? The DM or the players?
Everybody.
Aw. Do you think the major issue is some players are willing to like talk with each other and like, okay, you have one special pilot ability that will sync up with my special piloting versus I'm a solo lone wolf and I don't need no party?
I actually think that the real problem is just balance. I think that these abilities could be fixed.
Or a vision pass.
Right. Some errata on them would be great. My problem is that I don't want to do that for my games when I'm trying to point to a book and say, this is where to get all that information. So it's hard for me to house rule them into ways that would make them more palatable. But I think either finding some way to randomize them instead of people selecting them, or some decent errata from the powers that be would be the best way to fix that.
I feel like these need a second pass of, okay, they've been out for a long enough time, people know them, but the game is played a little differently nowadays. I think that might be the best way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, they've only been out for 12 years now, so it's not especially long in BattleTech terms.
That's practically brand new.
That I have, yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, it's recent enough that I have no, back in my day stories about them. Because
he's got no back in my day story.
I don't.
Oh man, that's actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Are we legally allowed to talk about something this new?
I know it's going to ruin some people's bingo scores.
Oh man. So that's pretty much our opinions on them. Let's go over some rules for using them. Like we kind of touched on the 1 unit for every 4, but in campaign ops, there is like a little bit more regimented special pilot ability criteria.
So first of all, they do have a point value. Not all of them are scored equally, but it's also depending on how much experience your pilot has as to how many they can get and how powerful the ones they get can be.
So we're looking like 1 through 4, with 1 being super cheap and 4 being really strong,
right?
For cost wise,
correct.
And a example of a level 1 would be something like Lucky, where it's just a free reroll on a failed attack, a piloting skill, or a per scenario. So you get 1 reroll on something you did or something dice you're doing.
And you happen to pick one of the most interesting ones by Lucky in that it's actually variable. It could be 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that's how many rerolls you get per scenario. So it can actually cost 4.
Yeah. But for 1 point, you get 1 reroll per game, right, essentially. An example of a 4 would be Sharpshooter, and that you can take an aim shot with an additional critical chance.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
Yeah, that's a...
So why not give all your brand new pilots a bunch of skills?
But I want to give all my pilots special skills. That's the problem. I'm a human, and I'm greedy.
But you can't, because when you get green pilots, they get 0.
What?
Yep.
Didn't they go to like the academy for something?
You have to earn it. Well, green pilots are like 5, 6 pilots. They're not even your standard out of the box 4 or 5 pilots. Green pilots are really bad.
Why do we have these guys in our company?
Because they're cheap. That's why. Because they're cheap. Because if you're playing campaigns, C-bills count.
They're butts and seats.
That's right. But once they get to regular, once they get to that 4 or 5 tier, then they can have one special pilot ability at 2 points or less.
2 points or less? So
Yes.
I can't get a sharpshooter like first right out the gates?
Not right out of the gate. You gotta get a couple more kills under your belt for that. Once you get up to veteran or elite, then you can have 2 SPAs with a total combined points of 4 or less. So you can either get one that's a 4, or you can get a 3 and a 1, or 2 2s, or any other combination that I didn't mention.
But I mean, that makes sense because hopefully the elite/veteran person is leading the lance in a Inner-Sphere game.
Right.
These are essentially for the leader of that, game.
And there's a lot of good pilot abilities that are 2 and 3 points. A lot of very good ones. And then, of course, legendary. Once you get a whole lot of kills, you can actually get 3 special abilities with the points totaling 6 or less.
So that really is your company commander.
Right. He's your Kai Allard Liao's and Victor Davian's.
It's always the Davian.
Always.
But yeah, so
Takashi Kurita. We can add more. Sun Tzu Liao.
Looking at the, criteria for that doesn't seem too overpowered, though.
No, it doesn't. It's a great framework for the system. The problem comes down to the actual special pilot abilities themselves. Some of them seem very, very balanced, and I like them. But there are a couple that just seem broken, and I haven't figured out why they were made that way to begin with.
Why? Oh, man.
Like, what were they thinking, honestly? I would love to find out who wrote these and just ask them, not accusingly. I don't want to threaten them. I just want to know how their brain was working when they came up with this. So where did these come from?
So from what I can tell, these originally came from a time of war, like from the actual RPG.
That makes sense to me. These definitely feel like an RPG element in a big way. That makes a lot of sense.
They're feats from D&D. Like, they are the side table of cool things that have a few prerequisites, and you throw them on, you completely, make your character better than anyone else.
Right. You really tweak that and play to your strengths.
But also, if you're playing in an RPG, you're probably having a group of people and you're working together as a much more solidified party.
Right. And there's risk to your pilot. If your pilot dies, doesn't eject, you lose that pilot. You lose all the XP that you've put into these special pilot abilities. There is a definite risk to what you're doing. So you can lose it, and then you have to start over. But now they're available in Alpha Strike and in Classic. They're mentioned in the beginner box sets. Now there's not much of a risk because you're playing with nameless pilots. And no, I do like that the pilot cards that come with the mechs have some seemingly random ones, and those aren't as overpowered because you don't get to pick and choose which ones you get. And that is a fun way to spice up your pickup game. That seems like a lot of fun. But if you just make all your pilots have special pilot abilities, you're playing a different game than the one that was designed.
They're not a perfect fit, but we make the best of it.
So do we want to go over a few of them before we get to ones that we think are broken, or do we want to just start with the broken ones right off the bat?
Let's start with ones we like first, and then go to problem childs. Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, like for the beginning ones, 1 point, good 1 point special pilot abilities. There's one called Human TRO.
No, that's mine. You can't take that one. It's the only one I know. I'm really bad at these.
Okay, really good one. That's level 1 is the one you mentioned before, Lucky. It gives your pilot a free reroll on an attack or piloting skill. Like it can save your bacon in an emergency, and for each point you can do it once. And at the beginning, when you don't have very many, just get one. Why not just get one? You can always upgrade that skill later if you want to.
I love Lucky. Like, I know we play it a little fast and loose at tables I've been at. Like, if one person has Lucky, they can give that free reroll to anyone. Like,
right. I mean, it's when you're playing with like that, where it is a group of people who are playing against a common foe. So it's not supposed to be a balanced one. but sometimes that whole team just gets unlucky. It's a good way to balance that. I totally agree, and I do that all the time.
Yeah, I really like Lucky. It kind of helps prevent feel bads. It's not an auto pass, but failing that, it's a 2-up and you roll snake eyes. It's like, all right, I'm not asking for a lot. I just need a 3 or higher.
I just need to not fall down and go unconscious right now.
Yeah, but I really like Lucky. It's definitely one of the better ones in my opinion, as in it doesn't really have a bad side, just the fact that...
and it's balanced. I feel it's balanced.
You get exactly what it says. There's no weird interactions with anything else. It's just, okay, I get a free reroll. And that's okay. I've been in a lot of war games where you can get a free reroll maybe once a game, and I'm like, they're okay. They're not busted. If you get 1 or 2, that's fine.
All right. Well, how about you? What's your favorite 1-point skill?
I'm gonna go with Human TRO.
Fantastic choice.
And I just love the quote for it, which is, "Sir, the warbook says there's 20 different marauders out there, and I know of 30. Who do you want to believe?" And Human TRO lets you pick a unit type, whether it be mech, combat vehicle, battle armor, and whatever else is on the table, and you pick one of those types, and you get a +1 modifier to rolls on the determining critical hits table.
Yep. So that means that if you need an 8 and you roll a 7 + 1 is 8. Or if you roll an 11 + 1 is 12. That bumps up the number of crits as well.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's good.
Now, 99.9999998% of your players are going to pick mech as as what they're going to be rolling against. I'm sure there are the occasional ones who will pick vehicle.
Now, my question is I can tell that this is flawed, like this special pilot ability is flawed, because in regular classic Battletech, you cannot get a critical hit on battle armor. And it specifically says battle armor is a unit type. So I don't understand, was there even a quality check inside of it?
Well, maybe in a time of war, it considers it a critical hit there. So this is still, like I'm saying, these need to be errated because they haven't been looked at since they were pulled out of the A Time of War book. And it doesn't always fit.
This is me using the thing I like as an example. Like, this is obviously not made for classic, as you cannot do a critical hit onto battle armor.
Right.
But it says right there, if I get a +1 critical hit to battle armor, it's like, bro, if you critical hit the battle armor, he's dead. Like, there's nothing extra.
Nope.
What, you want to hit his hip? Like his actual hip bone? But yeah, so those are like cheap ones. And those are ones I normally try to take if I'm taking special pilot abilities, because you get what you pay for and you get exactly what it says.
All right, well, how about level 2 skills? 2-point skills. You got any favorites of those?
I'll let you go first while I pick mine, in case you pick the same one I'm going to do again.
A good one that I like is Street Fighter, not just because it's one of my favorite video games, but it allows you to, instead of doing your physical attacks simultaneously, it lets you do your physical attacks first. So if you kick them and they fall down, they cannot punch or kick you. If they're charging you and you kick them and they fall down, they don't get to finish their charge. They're just on the ground. So it's a nice medium power one that has its uses that, you can't use it every single turn, but when you do get to use it, it is decently powerful.
Yeah. No, that's one where if you're building a unit specifically to do things like that, it's really fun to kind of like change the way the whole game plays around you.
Right.
My 2-cost S.P.E.A. will probably be Jumping Jack, which is probably what everyone...
Nope. See, that's what I'm saying. I disagree with you because I said we should pick our ones that are not broken. And that, sir, is broken.
Okay, I'll pick another one. I'll just pick Marksman.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a very good one.
Yep, so that is essentially a free ability to make an aim shot. So in your intro tech, which is, I want to say, where most campaigns play, just because
It's so easy.
It's so
easy to do.
It's so easy. This essentially gives you a targeting computer for the ability to do aim shots. If you have a targeting computer, it gets better. But if you're playing without targeting computers, this essentially gives you the ability to have a targeting computer for the purpose of aim shots only.
Right. It's super useful.
Yeah.
Again, not brokenly useful, but it's it is good.
Yeah, most of the lower cost ones aren't that like. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take that back. The majority of these are not bad offenders.
Right, but the two most broken ones are low point. They're too low point. That's a big problem with them.
Yeah. Do we want to do 3s and 4s? Like,
there's only like 2 4s, and we already know that a 4-point lucky and sharpshooter are both great.
Yeah. So I'll let you pick a 3 or a 4, and then I'll pick a 3 or 4. How about that?
Okay. My favorite number 3 one is Combat Intuition. And that grants you the ability to move and resolve your fire before any other unit acts. So if you need to block that one alleyway so that nobody can get past you, or the enemy mech is almost dead, but he still has enough weapons to make your day super bad, but you know that one more salvo will take him out. This allows you to pull that off before the enemy gets to move. So you get to move and fire and resolve all your damage before they get to even move. There is no simultaneous damage in that situation. So it is 3 points, which is a lot of points, but it's very powerful for those 3 points.
I like it.
It is, they call it extremely taxing. So when you do it, it does inflict 1 point of pilot damage to the pilot.
Ooh.
No consciousness roll is required, so it's not going to have a chance of knocking you out, but it does damage you, which I think is a fair trade-off, especially if they're not going to make you roll for consciousness, because that's where you die. Because you pull this off and then you just pass out. That's not going to happen.
I would hope you're not going to strain yourself, like clinch until you pass out. Like, I've seen it happen. I hope you're better than that.
Yeah, but this is one that I feel has a high point and a high cost, but its power, which it is very powerful, is balanced by a negative, or at least like something that could limit you in some way. So I think that is a well-balanced, powerful special pilot ability.
All right, so my number 3, or my 3.1, is Weapon Specialist. Yeah, I see him. So how many particles do you want me to stitch across him for my PPC? For the flavor text, you essentially pick one weapon system. So medium lasers, plural, or PPCs, plural. And that is their ultimate weapon of choice in battle. And then you get a -2 to hit with that weapon.
Right. So ER PPCs, PPCs, heavy PPCs, snub-nose PPCs all get -2 if you pick the PPC weapon system.
Are you sure? That seems really strong.
Not 100% sure, but the way that you said weapon system makes me think that that's how that is used.
Single type of weapon system. Can choose the medium laser. Might choose LRM-10. So no, it's not.
Okay, so what it's saying when it says weapon system is you're not picking your left arm PPC. You're saying all of my PPCs on my mech, I get at a -2.
Yeah, so if I had
all of my medium lasers.
Yeah, if I had an awesome with 3 PPCs and I chose Weapon Specialist PPC, I'd have -2 to hit with all of the regular intro tech PPCs. Now, if I upgraded one of those to an ER PPC, I would not get Weapon Specialist with that extended range PPC.
Cool. Yep. That is how I read this paragraph. So
the proof is in the pudding, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, this is good. I wouldn't say it's OP, except on, a few things. Like, and awesome with all -2 PPCs. But really, that's just
pulse. You got pulse PPCs.
Yeah.
But you paid a lot of points. It's 3 points. You paid a lot of points for that. So it should be powerful.
Yeah. My only thought is you have to put that on a veteran or higher pilot. So, that's already going to be a 3-4.
Yes.
So now you're hitting a lot.
But remember, these are the heroes. These are the special pilots. So, your awesome pilot who's really good at PPCs should be that good. He shouldn't miss from across the map, and that should be the thing that the enemy lance has to work on eliminating. Like
that's true.
Take that commander down.
I'll agree with you on that.
Yep, Weapon Master is a good one.
Okay, so that's kind of like a quick overview of most of some. I don't want to say gems. What do we want to call those? Ones that stick out to us.
The tried and true. The ones that are good, that are balanced and should show up in a campaign.
Okay. Do you want to go over the broken combos now?
Oh man, I mean,
how would you like to move from there? Yeah.
Let's do that because there are some that are just broken. There's one in particular that's super broken, and then another one that is just broken. So one is super broken, and one is just broken.
Now, the problem with these being broken isn't the fact of like each one itself is kind of bad. It's more that you can just make a character that doesn't play well with the rest of the party and just kind of does lone wolf stuff. Or when you say broken,
right? Well, when they're broken by themselves, they're bad enough. But if you combo them with a veteran Mechwarrior, where you get another, when you get 5 or 6 total points altogether of a combo of 3 skills or 3 special pilot abilities together, that just makes it unbelievably overpowered. But the core of it are basically these two abilities.
Go for it, Denham.
So the first one is Jumping Jack. It is only 2 points, but whenever that unit jumps, instead of a +3 to its attack rolls, it only needs to worry about a +1. So it jumps, but it's treated as if it walked, which is like, why wouldn't you not jump?
You can jump every time.
There is no point in not jumping every single time, all over the place. So your TMM is still the same, but your 2-hit modifier is just a +1. So if you could run, don't. Jumping is better. It's always better.
It's always better.
It's always better.
Now, you've seen a lot of players throughout the years running Jumping Jack. How does it make you feel? Because you've been on both sides of the table with it.
It's frustrating because a lot of times when they pick Jumping Jack, they also pair it with things like Melee Master. So they're jumping behind you and getting 3 melee attacks against you. And melee attacks are attacks, so they are also only get the +1 for jumping instead of +3. DFA is so much easier. If you pair it with something like Melee Master and Fist Fire, then they jump behind you. And if they have what's a good mech with a ShadowHawk. ShadowHawk has 2 arms. One of them has a medium laser on it. With Fist Fire, if you hit with a melee attack and do damage, you can then fire that weapon for more damage to that same spot. So with Melee Master, you get 3 punches and a -1 to your hit, plus the -2 to your hit because of Jumping Jack. You're getting a really incredibly good rolls on 3 punches, which each have a 1 in 6 chance of hitting the head. So 50% of the time, you're going to punch with a ShadowHawk in their head and then fire off that medium laser into the cockpit. Bam, done. Just head capper. And then next turn, there's nothing stopping you from jumping behind another mech and doing it again. Like there's no limitation on it. Which seems awesome unless you have a team of 5 or 6 who are all doing it.
That's when it becomes an issue, because if there was one guy who was doing it and that was the commander or the leader, that would be one thing. But when everybody has that ability and is doing it, it gets frustrating. Well, you just have to put them in like a subterranean cavern, and that has a ceiling, and it's like, oh, you Jumping Jack? Okay. You hit the ceiling.
Do that every battle, right? You do that every battle, and then it's just like, why did I spend all the points on here if you're just going to hard counter it with terrain? Like there's nothing but bad feelings to counter these things.
You've railroaded
good feeling
the party.
way of doing it. Yeah.
Why are you railroading us? Why are you burning down my campaign?
Yep. And as bad as that one is, I think there's one that's even worse.
What? You don't like Oblique Attacker?
I don't like Oblique Attacker. I don't understand Oblique Attacker. How about that?
Okay,
Don't understand it.
Oblique Attacker is 1 point, and it improves accuracy for indirect fire and enables indirect attacks without the need of a spotter.
Right, it gets worse. Yeah, the indirect fire attack applies the following modifiers. All standard modifiers for attacker and target movements. All standard modifiers for the spotter's movement. Terrain modifiers and partial cover based on the line of sight from the spotter, not the firing mech. A +1 for indirect fire, range modifier based between the attacker and the target. And if the spotter makes any attacks, that's an additional +1. So first of all, you have no spotter, so there's no +1 additional. There's no terrain or partial cover from the spotter. So you're eliminating, and there's no spotter to move. So you're eliminating so many potential target number modifiers right there. Everything from the spotter is just gone. Plus, you get an additional -1 for having this ability. So all of that makes it so that if you're normally rolling on 10s or 11s, you can cut that down to like 6s for indirect fire.
It's just you and then the target, really, in range.
Right.
It's like a regular shot with a -1.
It's a regular shot ignoring all terrain in between you and the target. You have to deal with the terrain that the target is in and their target modifier, but no intervening terrain at all.
Bro, this seems like Magic Missile.
It gets worse when you pair it with a few things.
Yeah, because Oblique Attacker is 1, so you get that for your first real upgrade.
All that for 1 point.
Yeah,
1 point.
Who's using LRMs? LRMs aren't bad in intro tech. You got to be exactly 7 away.
Yeah, except unless you take something like Range Master, which reverses your long range and short range modifiers. So you're standing in the back of the map, and as long as they're in long range for you, that's a 0 modifier. Not a +4, it's a 0. And then you also add Sandblaster onto that, so that when you do hit, because you just like lowered your target number to unbelievably low numbers, and when you do hit, you're automatically getting cluster bonuses, even if you don't have Artemis. And if you have Artemis, they stack. So yeah, when you're shooting 2 LRM-15s on a catapult, or some of the better catapults with 4 LRM-15s, you're doing an incredible amount of damage every turn from far away, so that nobody can shoot back at you. Like you're off-board artillery, although you're still on board.
The bad feels. Another bingo.
Dustin hates it.
Yeah. The bad feels that I get when I play with other people that use this, or play as the DM against people that use this, is kind of player that takes that, at least Oblique Attacker, and then anything else, especially Range Master, is someone who's not contributing to the rest of the game. Like they're not, they'll pay you for their BV, which makes the campaign game PV higher, but they're going to sit back. They're not going to get shot because they're going to be at maximum range because they've switched their short and long profile. Like everyone else is having to fight more, and they're just literally hiding behind a wall.
Right. They don't even move. They just find a level 2 difference and hide behind it. And just when it's their turn, they're like, okay, this target takes 45 points of damage. Now, there are counters. I could bring in artillery. If they have Range Master, I can run light mechs up in front of them, and then they can't do anything to it because with the TMM of a light mech and a +4 for being in short range, that's bad news for them. But a lot of times instead they'll pick something like Sniper or Weapon Master instead of a Range Master. So you only get a -2 instead of a -4, but you're not screwed if something gets into your close range. So there are some counters, but then it feels like the only way to counter it is to make it feel like you are specifically targeting them because you have to. And that just, it's a bad feeling all around.
You're breaking the campaign. Like, this isn't like you are doing strong stuff that is making me have to adapt tactics. It's like, no, you're completely not even playing the game anymore, and you're not interacting with your other lance mates in a campaign setting. If this was like the chaos campaign again, where it's just one player versus one player, and you get, all right, here's your one, that would be your legendary lance, or that would be your company commander having that, and that's not as bad to have like a super OP tactic person. But when you're having a campaign with multiple other people, that's when it becomes an issue.
Right. And I mean, I can see several people who I play with think that I'm like calling them out on this, and I'm not, because
but
it's
you
not
are just a little bit,
but not them specifically. It's because if you look at all of my groups and all of the other groups who are doing these online, like from the forums that I go check on, every single group has these two combinations, at least one of them in every single, like at least one of both types.
Yeah.
In every single one of them, because these are the quintessential min-maxer type of builds, which, I mean, every D&D group has them as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
at least in D&D, they are balanced. They try to have revisions that balance the ones that are overpowered. And unfortunately, Catalyst hasn't quite gotten around to this yet. It's only been 12 years, maybe another 10, and they'll get around to it.
Oh man, so do we go to how do we make special pilot abilities relevant and normalize them regular play, or do we go for how do we fix this? Like,
we kind of touched on some of that already.
Yeah,
but we can rehash that again.
What would you like to go from there?
We could say how do we fix this, because this is a problem. It is a problem.
Okay. So besides waiting for Catalyst to kind of do like a second pass, like an errata, where they're either just change the cost for all of these, or they rewrite how it affects units. I would prefer
both. They need both.
They need both. But how do we kind of bandage them as a DM? Let me put it that way. If you were a newer DM doing a campaign, your players are saying, hey, I would like to do special pilot abilities or quirks or, unit upgrades. Like when you're picking at the buffet for a campaign and they go to special pilot abilities, how do we stop the bad feels for, I want to say everyone involved except the min-maxy player. And I don't even want to say the min-max player is bad. It's just they're looking for efficiency for their one game night a month.
Right. Like if it's your own personal group where you're playing with people the easy fix is talk with them, come up with your own house rules for the problem children. That's what I would say to do. I don't do that at my games because as a CDT person, I kind of feel shoehorned into being able to point to the book and say, this is where I'm getting this information, instead of saying, oh, this is where I'm getting it for the information, except for like all this stuff that you're just going to have to know, which I don't want to do at this point. But I have zero problems with telling people, hey, start up your own campaign, change these to whatever you want. I'm giving you the framework, and you go and make it fit your group better. So that's a fix for them, but I don't know a good fix for my groups because of the artificial constraints I have placed on myself. And it causes a little bit of stress.
I'm limited by the technology of my own time.
Yeah.
Ways that I've thought for bandages for my campaigns is make all of these cost one. Like all these are one cost, but make them all one use only, like per game.
Can you buy more uses of them? So could you spend 3 points of your 6 and get jumping jack 3 times a game?
Yeah. I mean, at that point,
that's not bad.
If each one is one use per game, you could have like multiple chances. Like,
so they're all built like Lucky.
They're all built like Lucky. I feel like Lucky is the gold standard for special pilot abilities. Like
that's kind of cool. I kind of like that idea because just limiting them to one it's rough. Like I did try doing that, and it's
especially early on.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
But at with that modification, you kind of scrap the number of S.P.E.A. requirements and just go with the points. So a regular pilot of 4 or 5 gets 2 uses of any S.P.E.A.
Right. Yeah. That's not bad.
No. If you want to, swap your range profile for one turn. Short becomes long and long becomes short. Do it twice in a game. That's fine. Like, I don't think that's too broken.
And they get 6 points. Like, eventually, as they level up, they get up to 6 points.
Yeah.
No, that's not a bad solution. But that's what I'm saying. People need to come up with solutions right now until they errata them, because as they're written, they're a great idea. I think they're a cool concept, but some of them are fundamentally broken.
Yeah, I know Dustin in his last tournament actually gave everyone lucky, so they could re-roll. Like, hey, or I guess that was more edge than lucky,
right? But it's the same. It's basically the same thing. I think edge is reroll anything.
Okay.
And lucky is specifically an attack or piloting skill that you made. In fact, I think for role playing games, because role playing games are you versus a GM, you could force anything to be a reroll, even the enemy. So if like the enemy happened to succeed on a PSR that was amazingly hard,
11
you can be like, oh no, he didn't, which is why I think for tournaments lucky is better than edge, because if you are to make a fantastic roll and then your opponent forces you to re-roll that in a tournament, that just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Like if you miss an easy shot and then you get a re-roll and you make it, that's one thing. But if your opponent makes a great shot and then you force them to re-roll it, yeah, no, I don't like that at all.
Well, you don't like stopping the turn one. All right, I just rolled 12s on all my Gauss rifles. It happens, people. We've seen it.
It does. It does.
But yeah, so that's I want to say my first big bandage is just make everything cost 1 and make it one-time use. And I mean, if you want to do like, you get everyone at regular gets 3, veteran gets 4, and then legendary gets 6. Like, just so you start out with more, that's fine. That's up to you. That's a flavor thing. The other option that I've always thought of is just hit those bad ones and just change them. Like,
I highly recommend in your own groups modifying them until everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Totally like that. I don't do it. Do not take me as the way you have to do it. Take it as the guy who's just trying to make sure that you know how it's written in the book, so that but you don't have to follow that. All right, Josh, I think obviously we're not going to go over every single one of these special pilot abilities. There are a lot of them. We went over our favorites and our least favorites, or the most broken that we thought.
Most broken that we like, yeah. And / least broken that we hate, maybe.
Yes. Like I said, these are in the campaign operations book. They're also in the Alpha Strike Commander's Edition book, and in a time of war, because really they're best for role playing. There are a couple that are not in there. One I would like to talk to you about is this one on the back of the Morgan Kell card from the hero mech from the Kickstarter. Anybody who's read the fiction knows a bit about Morgan Kell and his Phantom Mech ability, which is an S.P.E.A. Now, costs for S.P.A.s are between 1 and 4, right, Josh?
Normally. Well,
the Phantom Mech cost is NA. So this is specifically not to be balanced against anyone else. So the Phantom Mech ability, I got to tell you this one. Phantom Mech. First, may move and make attacks of any kind at any point in any phase, even overriding an enemy using combat intuition or other S.P.A.s. Also, may make lateral shifts for basically 1 extra movement point. So no matter what kind of mech you're in, you get to do lateral shifts. Also, may reserve movement points or weapon attacks as desired for use later in a turn until all movement points or weapon attacks are expended. And also, as well as, generates an additional +2 target modifier at short and medium range and a +4 target modifier at long range. Minimum range modifiers against this target are doubled. So basically, the Morgan Kell Phantom Mech says, I can do what I want when I want, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. It is an S.P.E.A. Right. This is not one of those that you should allow just anybody to take. This is more for a like historical battle reenactment, and you want Morgan Kell to be an actual, a boss mech at the end of this. So it's something that overwhelming numbers of people are going to have to work together to take down, because just a one-on-one, you're never going to be able to do anything.
The worst part is I have that card because I have the Morgan Kell Archer. And it's like, I feel like I need to spring that on someone who's like, oh yeah, let's do a classic game. You want to use special pilot abilities that came with the cards? Sure. Not so fast, Yugi. I use Phantom Mech ability on my Morgan Kell.
You've activated my trap card. Natasha Kerensky also has NA for her cost, but I don't think it's nearly as powerful as Morgan's.
Oh man. So that's special pilot abilities. Do you feel more special after talking about all of them, Denham?
I still think that there is definitely a place for SPAs, and I like their inclusion in the game. I like the idea of the hero commander. It's just something that I also think needs a little bit more polish from Catalyst before it should be put in something like the Battle Mech Manual, which is why I was so surprised to see it in the Alpha Strike Commander Edition.
That's true. Would you do quirks before SPAs if you were doing a campaign?
I would introduce quirks first. I do think that they go well hand in hand, but also, there is that potential for abuse. So this is definitely something that you should talk to your players and GM about before just springing out on. This isn't something you should just show up to for a pickup game and say, oh, by the way, here's my special pilots and here are all my quirks. You should talk about this before you agree to play a game.
Unless you only run in Lucky, we ain't playing today.
That's right.
Yeah, like I said, not all of these are bad. Like, I've done pickup games using my company with SPAs, and those are fine. Like,
right. Yeah, one per lance, super, super good. Super good. Even the overpowered ones, when you just have one mecha lance, I don't really have a big problem with that.
So when used correctly, I guess that's the best way. They're a nice little spice of life.
Yeah, when used as intended.
When used as intended. So a time of war.
A time of war, even if you follow the rules specifically in the campaign operations with the limitations. But yeah, time of war, like, with a role-playing game, it's always rule of cool. You can't really go wrong as long as everyone's having fun. Like, rules don't really matter.
The number one rule of a campaign is to have fun.
Well, it's the story. You want to build that story, and if the story is good, then the rules can all be hand waved to say, well, yeah, they're the hero. Of course, it worked out that way.
Yeah. So I agree.
In a nutshell, I like SPAs. For the most part, like, most of them are seem to be balanced, with just a few outliers.
If you were a pilot in a game of BattleTech, like, what SPA would you have?
Like, I would totally pick the Jumping Jack and Melee Master one. No, it's Fistfire. I love the idea of Fistfire, of punching with because I love my ShadowHawk.
Oh yeah,
and being able to punch and then fire that medium laser into the part where I punched. 100% Fistfire would be the first one I picked up.
Crusader.
Yeah. It has to be a direct fire weapon. Yeah, I know we didn't read the brief description, but I know
disappointed.
It has to be a direct fire weapon, so like a laser or an autocannon, something like that. But it can be a pulse laser, so there's that.
It's not as cool now.
Just a ton of missiles.
Yeah, I just want to punch the hole and then dump the missiles in.
Oh, can you imagine doing that with an MRM on your arm, like an MRM 40 in your arm? Just, but no, you can't.
I mean, I understand why. Why.
Sorry, it is only a 2-point ability. But yeah, even the ShadowHawk with his medium laser, like that's an additional 5 points. So what's the ShadowHawk stuff? Oh, it's still okay. Yeah, ShadowHawk's dumb. So it's a 55 tonner. So its punch does 6.
Yes.
And then with the medium laser that does 11, still 1 point shy of taking that head clean off.
Look.
It's always just not enough.
God knew he'd be too powerful to stop if he had 5 extra tons.
Yeah. No. How about you? What would you pick?
Probably human TRO.
Yeah.
Because I like doing crits.
The problem with human TRO is that whenever I need to roll a crit, I roll a 7 instead of an 8. And the one time I took human TRO, every time I needed a crit, I'd roll a 6. So it's always just one below.
Always. Yeah, I know, but it's still fun to, while you were studying, actuator degrees enhancements, I was studying the blade, but vice versa. It's like, no, you were studying the blade. I was studying actuators on, 20 different Marauders and where to hit this medium laser at them.
Yeah. Well, it's so cheap too. It's a 1 point cost. So anytime that you've got just 1 point left over, just take that one. Like that is the best 1 point all around, the best 1 point ability that there is on the list, in my opinion.
Besides Lucky. Denham's
Aside
pause
from
for
Lucky,
effect. Yeah.
Because, Oblique Attacker is also 1 point. Lucky is 1 point.
Melee Specialist is cool, though. See, that's the problem. All the 1 point ones are cool. And if you only got one, these be really cool.
I think Lucky is too generic for it to be like the one that I would pick, because Lucky is just useful no matter what.
Yeah.
Like it's just a reroll. But to fit into the special pilot abilities, I think I would still pick the one we were just talking about.
Hold up. You said that, and then I saw Melee Specialist. Your ShadowHawk takes Fist Fire, and then takes Melee Specialist. And Melee Specialist does 1 extra point of damage.
I know, but we were just saying the
I
one.
I know.
Because if you look at my broken combos, Melee Master and Fist Fire were in there because that does take the ShadowHawk and give it 12 points on a punch.
Well, I'll get rid of this.
100% does. Yeah, because combos are where it's at in this.
But yeah, no. If I was in BattleTech as a character, I would have human TRO.
It's a good one.
Because all I do is look at Sarna all day, and when Master Unit List is up, I'm looking at that. I know which Marauder and Exterminator is just by the art.
You know exactly where to shoot that green laser and take out your opponent.
Stop with the robot jacks.
It's such a good movie.
But I think that's it for today for special pilot abilities.
I think there's a lot of discussion to be had in here. I think this is a good one to throw to the Discord, see what they've used and they like, and we can argue about what's good and what's broken.
Most of it.
Yeah.
You'll never get which one I think, but most of it. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening today to the Mechbay podcast. I hope you feel special after listening to all these special pilot abilities that we love and hate. Until next time, remember, through salvage, all things are possible.